The worn leather recipe book sat heavy in my hands, its pages yellowed with age and spotted with decades of cooking stains. My grandmother's handwriting filled each page with precise instructions, not just for ingredients and methods, but with marginal notes about the weather's effect on dough consistency and how to adjust spice levels for different seasons. This book was more than a collection of recipes. It was our family's legacy. "You're being sentimental, David," my sister Rachel said, her voice carrying that familiar tone of condescension. "The property alone is worth millions. We can't keep losing money on some outdated diner just because grandmother loved it." We stood in Golden Palace's kitchen, the space where I'd grown up watching our grandmother transform simple ingredients into dishes that had once drawn crowds from across San Francisco. Now, at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, the dining room sat empty except for a few loyal regulars who couldn't quite let go. "It's not just about the money," I argued, though I knew it was futile. The decision had already been made. My 3 siblings had voted. Democracy in action, they called it. 3 against 1. "The sale closes tomorrow," my brother Michael announced, straightening his Rolex. "The developers already have permits for the new complex." "It's done, David. Let it go." My youngest sister, Sarah, at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "We're each getting $2 million from the sale," she offered. "You could start something new, something modern." Something modern. The words echoed in my head as I watched them leave, their designer shoes clicking against the worn tile floor our grandfather had laid by hand in 1962. They didn't understand that modernity wasn't always about replacing the old with the new. Sometimes it was about finding fresh ways to honor tradition. I spent that night in the kitchen, cooking every dish in my grandmother's repertoire one last time. Her voice seemed to whisper with each turn of the recipe book's pages. "The secret," she always said, "is not in following the recipe. It's in understanding why each step matters." As dawn broke, I made a decision. I'd spent the last decade working in some of the world's finest restaurants, learning from master chefs while my siblings pursued careers in law, finance, and tech. I'd saved almost every penny, living in tiny apartments while they bought houses in prestigious neighborhoods. I'd been preparing for something without even knowing it. I called my bank first, then my restaurant industry contacts. By noon, I had a plan. It would take every cent I had, plus loans that would keep me in debt for years, but I could make a counteroffer to the developers. The property was worth millions, yes, but the location had challenges they hadn't considered. Zoning complications, historical building ordinances, community opposition to high-rise development. My siblings were surprised when their phones rang that evening. The developers had pulled out. They were even more surprised to learn why. "You're buying it?" Rachel's incredulity carried clearly through the phone. "Have you lost your mind? The place is hemorrhaging money." "That's because we stopped innovating," I replied calmly. Grandmother never intended for the Golden Palace to stay frozen in time. She changed her recipes constantly, adapted to new ingredients, new techniques. We forgot that part of her legacy. The renovation began immediately. I kept the restaurant open during the day, serving our traditional menu to the loyal customers who had stuck with us through the lean years. At night, I experimented, combining classical Chinese techniques with modern gastronomy, finding ways to elevate humble dishes into something extraordinary. I hired young chefs who shared my vision, teaching them my grandmother's techniques while encouraging them to push boundaries. We sourced ingredients from local organic farms, installed a rooftop garden for rare herbs, and built a temperature-controlled aging room for our house-made pickles and preserves. The first review came 3 months after the renovation. The San Francisco Chronicle's food critic wrote, "Golden Palace has undergone a transformation that defies easy categorization. The restaurant honors its heritage while fearlessly embracing innovation. The result is nothing short of magical." More reviews followed. Reservations became harder to get. Food bloggers posted photos of our dishes, marveling at how we transformed traditional recipes into modern masterpieces. But what really caught people's attention was the story behind each dish, the history, the family connection, the bridge between past and present. Our signature dish became a reinvention of my grandmother's char siu bao. We used heritage breed pork, slow-cooked for 48 hours, and wrapped it in dough made with an ancient grain variety I discovered through a local farmer. The cooking technique remained exactly as my grandmother had written it in her recipe book, but the presentation and ingredients elevated it to fine dining status. Rachel came to dinner 6 months after the reopening. I seated her at the chef's table, letting her watch as we prepared each course. Her skepticism faded with each dish, replaced by something approaching understanding. "This is grandmother's red braised pork," she said, tasting the final course. "But different." "Same technique, different application," I explained. "The pork is kurabuta, the soy sauce is house-aged, and the spices are toasted fresh daily. But the core recipe, the balance of flavors, the cooking method, that's all from her book." She was quiet for a long moment. "You're not just running a restaurant, are you? You're telling our family's story." "Every dish has a history," I said. "Every technique passed down through generations has a reason. We're not preserving the past, we're building on it." The Michelin inspectors came unannounced, as they always do. We treated them exactly as we treated every guest, sharing not just our food, but our story. Each dish came with a brief description of its origins, its evolution, its connection to our family's legacy. 1 year after I bought back the Golden Palace, my siblings received invitations to the Michelin Guide ceremony in New York. They didn't understand why until they arrived, dressed in their finest, still slightly embarrassed by their connection to what they had once called a failing diner. As we waited for the ceremony to begin, I thought about my grandmother's recipe book, now displayed in a custom case in the restaurant's entrance. We'd created a digital version for daily use, but the original remained as a reminder of where we came from and how far we'd come. The ceremony began, and I squeezed Sarah's hand as they announced the new stars. This wasn't just about proving my siblings wrong. It was about showing them that success doesn't always mean abandoning tradition. Sometimes it means finding new ways to make it shine. The Michelin Guide ceremony sparkled with elegance, the grand ballroom filled with the world's finest chefs and restaurateurs. My siblings sat uncomfortably in their expensive attire, still uncertain why I had insisted they attend. Michael checked his phone continuously, Rachel examined the program with forced interest, and Sarah fidgeted with her champagne glass. The ceremony proceeded through its familiar rhythm. 1 star, 2 stars, each announcement met with polite applause. Then came the moment that would change everything. The host's voice carried clearly through the hushed room. For our final award of the evening, we recognize a restaurant that has achieved something extraordinary, a seamless fusion of traditional cuisine and modern innovation, where every dish tells a story of family, heritage, and culinary excellence. My heart pounded as images of Golden Palace appeared on the massive screens. The cameras captured our signature dishes in stunning detail. The char siu bao with its perfectly pleated wrapper, the red braised pork garnished with microgreens from our rooftop garden, the house-made XO sauce that took 3 months to age properly. "This establishment," the host continued, "has transformed a beloved family restaurant into a temple of gastronomy while maintaining the soul of its humble origins. The techniques passed down through generations serve as a foundation for dishes that push the boundaries of modern cuisine." Rachel grabbed my arm. Michael's phone slipped from his fingers. Sarah's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. "And the 3 Michelin stars go to Golden Palace, San Francisco." The applause was thunderous, but I barely heard it. In that moment, I saw my grandmother's face, remembered her hands guiding mine as she taught me to pleat dumplings, recalled her voice explaining why the wok must be seasoned just so. This wasn't just my victory, it was her legacy finding new life. As I walked to the stage, my siblings remained frozen in their seats. The weight of the moment seemed to crash over them all at once. The restaurant they had dismissed as a failing diner had just joined the most exclusive culinary club in the world. "This honor," I said into the microphone, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "belongs to my grandmother, who taught me that cooking is about more than following recipes. It's about understanding the story behind every dish. And to my family, who helped me learn that preserving tradition sometimes means allowing it to evolve." The celebration that followed was a blur of congratulations and interviews, but what I remember most clearly was the moment my siblings approached me at the after-party. Rachel's carefully maintained composure had cracked, tears streaming down her face. Michael's usual businesslike demeanor had softened into something approaching awe. Sarah simply threw her arms around me, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over. "How did you do it?" Michael asked as we sat together later that night, the awards sitting between us on the table. "How did you take something so old and make it new again?" I pulled out my phone and showed them photos of our kitchen during service. The perfect blend of traditional techniques and modern equipment. Every dish we serve has 2 elements: the soul of grandmother's cooking and the spirit of innovation. We use immersion circulators and molecular gastronomy techniques, but we also maintain her old wood-fired wok. Our ingredients come from cutting-edge organic farms, but we still preserve and ferment exactly as she taught me. The next morning, as news of our 3 stars spread across the culinary world, reservations at Golden Palace became the most coveted in San Francisco. Our waiting list stretched to months, then a year. Food critics and bloggers analyzed every dish, trying to decode the magic that earned us such prestigious recognition. But the real transformation happened within our family. Rachel, with her legal expertise, helped us navigate the complexities of international expansion. Michael's financial acumen proved invaluable as we considered opportunities to grow while maintaining our standards. Sarah, who had always loved design, worked with architects to ensure our new locations honored both tradition and innovation. 6 months after receiving our stars, we gathered in the kitchen after hours. The space had been updated with state-of-the-art equipment, but my grandmother's wok still occupied its place of honor. I opened her recipe book, now digitized but still displayed prominently in its case, and began teaching my siblings the foundations she had taught me. First, I explained, demonstrating the proper wok technique. You must understand why each movement matters. The heat, the timing, the way the ingredients dance in the pan. These aren't just steps in a recipe. They're part of a story that's been passed down through generations. As we cooked together, something shifted in our family dynamic. The divide between tradition and progress, between past and future, began to blur. We weren't just preserving our heritage. We were participating in its evolution. 1 year after receiving our stars, we opened our 2nd location, then our 3rd. Each restaurant maintained the essence of Golden Palace while adapting to its local context. In Tokyo, we collaborated with local farmers to source unique ingredients. In Paris, we incorporated French techniques that complemented our traditional methods. In New York, we created fusion dishes that captured the city's energy while honoring our roots. But the original Golden Palace remained our heart. The digital displays showing our modern creations stood alongside black and white photos of our grandparents on opening day. The sophisticated point-of-sale system shared space with grandmother's abacus, still used occasionally for good luck. Every evening, before service began, our staff gathered to share a family meal cooked using her original recipes. On the 5th anniversary of buying back the restaurant, I invited my siblings for a private dinner. The meal I prepared told our family's story through food. Traditional dishes elevated by modern techniques, new creations anchored in ancient wisdom. Each course represented a chapter in our journey, from immigrant beginnings to Michelin-starred success. "You didn't just save the restaurant," Sarah said as we finished the final course. "You saved our connection to who we are." Rachel nodded, adding, "We thought success meant leaving the past behind. You showed us it means building upon it." Michael, ever the pragmatist, had tears in his eyes as he raised his glass. To grandmother's legacy, and to the brother who helped us understand its true value. As we sat together in the restaurant our grandparents had built, surrounded by the perfect fusion of old and new, I realized that success isn't measured just in stars or profits. It's measured in the stories we preserve, the traditions we honor, and the innovations we inspire. The leather-bound recipe book still sits in its case, its pages containing not just instructions, but the wisdom of generations. Besides it now rests our Michelin stars, proof that tradition and innovation aren't opposing forces. They're the essential ingredients in the recipe for lasting success. Every morning, as I unlock the restaurant's doors, I touch both the recipe book's case and the Michelin plaque. One represents where we came from, the other where we're going. But it's the space between them, the daily act of bridging past and future, that truly defines Golden Palace. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.